Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're undertaking a really definitive, structured breakdown of cybercrime. But listen, we aren't just looking at the nuts and bolts of the technology here. We're exploring its profound societal impacts. If you're a sociology student, or especially if you're gearing up for civil services exams like the RAS mains, this is exactly the kind of multidimensional analysis you absolutely need. We're going to decode how digital threats are literally reshaping the very fabric of Indian society, right from our macro economy all the way down to our intimate family structures.
Okay, let's dive into this with a number that is, frankly, just hard to ignore. According to a 2011 Norton Cybercrime Report, the Indian economy loses a massive $7.6 billion annually to these crimes. I mean, we're not talking about petty theft here. This is a staggering hemorrhaging of wealth that directly impacts national growth and individual livelihoods. This single number tells us right off the bat that cybercrime is no longer some fringe IT issue. It's a central economic threat.
Now, think of this highly organized thematic categorization as your perfect mains answer framework. 1. Cybercrime and intro. 2. Economic and commercial impact. 3. Social and demographic impact. 4. Cultural and behavioral impact. 5. Administrative and legal system. And finally, 6. Broader impacts and conclusion. Let's get started.
Section 1. Cybercrime and intro. Defining the threat.
So at its core, cybercrime encompasses any criminal act committed using computers, the internet, mobile phones, or basically any other digital medium. But hey, don't let the simplicity of that definition fool you. Sociologically speaking, this represents a profound, fundamental shift in human vulnerability. The weapon? It's no longer physical, it's digital. The scene of the crime isn't a dark alleyway anymore. It's our living rooms, our pockets, and our most private data.
Moving on to Section 2, Economic and Commercial Impact, the financial toll.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's driving all this. The primary motive behind these digital offenses is overwhelmingly clear. A staggering 60.4% of total cybercrime cases are committed strictly for financial gain. We're talking about things like illegal intrusions into bank accounts, the outright theft of passwords, and intercepting OTPs. The motive is clear, it's direct, and it is heavily monetized. Now, within that financial fraud, we're seeing some incredibly sophisticated methods. Here is a crucial, very exam-friendly vocabulary term you'll want to remember: salami attacks. This is a technique where a hacker illegally extracts very small, almost unnoticeable amounts of money from bank accounts. Because the amounts are so tiny, maybe just a few rupees or even just paisa, the victim doesn't even notice the discrepancy. But when you multiply that across millions of accounts, the hacker makes an absolute fortune right under our noses.
So it's really no wonder that the business world is terrified. A 2014 KPMG survey highlighted that 89% of organizations in India view cybercrime as a major existential threat. Let that sink in. It's not just the IT department's headache anymore. It's a core business risk that threatens the very survival and reputation of nearly 9 out of 10 companies.
All right, Section 3, Social and Demographic Impact, Vulnerability across generations.
Here we see a fascinating, and honestly tragic, contrast in personal vulnerabilities across different age groups, and it's heavily driven by the changing structure of the Indian family. On one side, we have the isolated elderly. As the traditional joint family breaks down into modern nuclear families, older generations are often left living alone. They become incredibly vulnerable targets for financial fraudsters, risking their entire life savings and vital medical funds. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have the youth. And they aren't just victims. The breakdown of family structure creates a totally unique vulnerability for them, too.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the root cause for the youth. The origin of this vulnerability is often gadget addiction, a real behavioral issue starting from early, completely unsupervised tech usage. The specific sociological twist here? Parents often feel immense pride when their toddlers or young kids intuitively navigate smartphones and laptops. We've all seen it. But without proper boundaries, that initial parental pride inadvertently fosters a severe addiction, leading to gadget misuse that can easily escalate into actual cyber delinquency and crime down the road.
Furthermore, we absolutely have to recognize that cybercrime goes way, way beyond just losing money. The data clearly shows that 5.1% of reported cases involve sexual exploitation, and 4.2% involve defamation or cyber slander. The heavy impacts of cyberbullying, online harassment, and stalking fall disproportionately on women and children in our society. The end result? A severe decline in mental health, leaving victims grappling with profound stress, anxiety, depression, and a completely shattered sense of self-worth.
Which brings us to Section 4,
Cultural and behavioral impact, the missing stigma.
This is a really critical sociological observation. In many developing societies, including India, cybercrime is simply not viewed with the same social stigma as a physical crime. I mean, think about it. If you burglarize a house or assault someone, there's immense social shame. But because cybercrime happens behind a screen and the victim is entirely invisible, there's a shocking lack of moral guilt and ethical boundary among the perpetrators. Our traditional social conditioning just hasn't caught up to the digital world yet.
And you know, this lack of stigma bleeds right into our everyday habits, creating massive cultural security flaws. For instance, in India, casual password sharing among friends and family is heavily normalized. It's literally seen as a sign of trust. Plus, there's a strong cultural resistance to basic security checks. People frequently view having to go through identity verification with a bank call center as an irritating or even insulting process. We're prioritizing our own convenience and ego over vital digital security.
Section 5. Administrative and legal system. The justice gap.
So, the crucial point is right here on this table. Look at this massive systemic failure of the justice funnel when it comes to digital crimes. Out of all the cybercrimes that actually occur, only an estimated 10% are ever even reported to the authorities. Of those, a mere 2% actually result in a registered case. And the most startling statistic of the whole shebang, the conviction rate sits at an abysmal 2%. Between the administrative hurdles, a severe lack of technical capacity, and legal complexities, cybercriminals are currently operating with near impunity.
Finally, Section 6. Broader impacts and conclusion. India's digital future. When we pull back the lens to summarize, the multidimensional picture of this threat is pretty stark. Going beyond just our individual bank accounts, society is facing rampant corporate espionage and ransomware attacks. There's a growing trust deficit. As everyday people get scammed, they lose faith in e-commerce and digital payments entirely. On a macro level, state-sponsored hacking of critical infrastructure poses huge threats to our national security. And underlying all of this, the constant quiet erosion of our personal privacy as sensitive data gets continuously compromised.
So, we want to leave you with this provocative thought. As India rapidly transforms into a true information society, pushing incredibly ambitious digitalization projects like Aadhaar, which literally place the fingerprints and iris scans of over 1 billion people onto the cloud, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Are we merely building a society of unprecedented innovation, or are we inadvertently brewing a perfect storm of vulnerability? Understanding the sociology behind cybercrime is the absolute first step toward answering that. Keep observing, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.